Yo, what's going on? We are rapidly approaching the conclusion of the elimination stage of the PGL Major at Copenhagen, and today we saw best of threes the whole way down, teams qualifying, teams going home, heartbreak, upsets, some of the best matches of the tournament so far. There was intrigue up and down the ladder, and we saw tense games from start to finish. Pain Gaming and Eternal Fire shocked the world, Faze and G2 skate through to stay alive, Vitality barely makes it past Complexity in an absolute banger, and we said goodbye to Ecstatic, Imperial, and Heroic. If you missed the action, this is the #1 place to be for your major recaps. My name is LionHeartZ, welcome back to the channel, and before we get started, make sure you guys take a second and leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, as well as helping me reach 1,000 subscribers as fast as possible. And while you're down there, consider becoming a member of the channel. For $5 a month, you can support me directly and what I do here, and gain access to exclusive emblems, emotes, and a shoutout at the end of every video, with more features coming soon. And lastly, consider giving me a follow on Twitch, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ1337, link down below, and let's get started with the action. And with our opening series of the day, you guys doubted me. Everybody doubted me. Just like Copernicus was burned for saying the Earth revolved around the sun and not the other way around, I was spurned for daring to say that Eternal Fire would beat Virtus.pro. But where is your win now, dickheads? Because Eternal Fire walk out, beat Virtus.pro in the opening series of the day, 2-1. We head to Overpass for our first map, where admittedly, gotta say, things weren't looking great to start. Virtus.pro get off to a comfortable lead. They win the map handily, 13-6, and honestly, watching them go up 10-2 on the T side of Overpass had me sweating. It was looking like this was going to be another Woxic disaster class. He went totally missing. Zontaras couldn't get started. Their CT side of Overpass could do nothing to stop the admitted aggression that we saw from Virtus.pro, notoriously one of the slowest teams in the competitive field. And it was a quiet game from James. It was the rifles that really did the work here. Fame, Norbert, and Flit just leading the way. James still had 10 kills, but it wasn't a dominant performance. And again, 13-6, Eternal Fire are such an inconsistent team, I thought it was over. But then, the Eternal Fire we all know and love woke up for map 2. We head to Vertigo, and Eternal Fire tell Virtus.pro to sit down and shut up. Leading the way is Zontaras and Major, the in-game leader, with 23 and 20 kills respectively. Zontaras looking unstoppable with a 1.9 rating. He was lighting up the server with multi-kills and first entry kills out the ass. 107 ADR, Major right behind with 113 ADR, just looking killer for an in-game leader. And frankly, Virtus.pro just weren't in it. They couldn't get anything going. With Vertigo being relatively T-sided, when Virtus.pro jumped out and took the pistol round, I thought they were going to run up an early lead. But no, Eternal Fire answered right back with 3 of their own, and they would take 5 of the next 7 to close the half. And once we swapped to the T side, there was just simply no stopping what Eternal Fire had to offer. Virtus.pro just weren't in the game at all. So, we moved to our decider, Inferno. And I'm not gonna lie, I was sweating this one a little bit. Virtus.pro started out with an early 4-0 lead. I thought the Eternal Fire choke job was coming, but no. What I did not expect was Major, the in-game leader, to lead his team to the promised land, leading the server with 22 kills, a 1.7 rating. His defense on B site was immaculate. His play calling on T side was even better. They went down those first 4 rounds on CT side Inferno, and I thought it was over. And then they comfortably win the next 7 of 8 to bring back the half. We swap sides, they run up a comfortable lead on the T side after winning the pistol round, and by that point, Virtus.pro are just too far behind to recover the economy. They never really get situated on the second half. They only win 2 of the next 5 rounds, and Eternal Fire do it. They do the unthinkable. They close out and beat VP 2-1. This is the first time a Turkish core has qualified to the top 8 at a major in Counter-Strike history, and leading the way, top ranking for the series, is the IGL Major. The confidence this has to inspire for Eternal Fire for their 35-year-old IGL to walk into a must-win series and drop 52 kills on a 1.4 rating against a very, very good Virtus.pro team. I know I'm a hater, but they're still a good team. That's incredible. His post-game interview was awesome. You could tell the emotion, the stress of it all was really getting to him, and to see him qualify, to be rewarded for his efforts, was awesome. Congrats to Eternal Fire. Virtus.pro, they still can qualify tomorrow. We'll get to that later. But Listen, my agenda is coming to life. First Pro, sorry. And for the second series of the day, we would see Faze take on Imperial in a must-win elimination match. Faze still struggling to find their form in this event. Meanwhile, Imperial have been getting better and better, still clawing their way up the bracket. Honestly, Imperial, I think they're going to look back at this, and this was a winnable series. Faze were suspect the entire way. And the big thing that stands out to me about Faze throughout the series was just the lack of confidence, the lack of just comfortability that you would expect from this team. This is a team that's usually very relaxed, very calm, and also very aware of the gravity they bring as a roster. Kerrigan is usually smiling, scheming, backstabbing, working his way into the back of your mind, while Rain is just this solid rock on CT and T. And then you have just the firepower of Brokey and Rops, and this is a very confident team. They'll swing on you and dominate you on your own map. This is what Faze have always done with this core. And here, it just wasn't there. They would cut to the player cams, and they just didn't look like they were in it. Like, the mental just wasn't there. So this series was a grinder. The first map would go to Nuke. Faze would win 13-8, but Imperial were in it really the entire time. There were a bunch of rounds that could have gone their way. And then you look to the score, Henny, Decenti, Vinny, they're right there. They're giving you the frags you need. And there's just no way around it. If Rops is bottom fragging and you're not winning against Faze in that case, that's a missed opportunity. Admittedly, Brokey, he had 20 kills at a 1.3 rating, but Brokey is not the lead star of this lineup. He goes missing all the time. With Rops being just awful for this first map, this is going to look like one that Imperial should have taken in retrospect. And then Faze looked at their shakiest here on Anubis, especially on the CT side. First off, again, it has to be highlighted, Rain and Rops towards the bottom of the scoreboard. Kerrigan outfragging them both. That's just such a bad sign for Faze because they're both so important to their playstyle. Brokey leads the team with 18 kills again and a 1.5 rating. He's the only positive rating for the game. And they lose 13-8 to an Imperial team that looked very comfortable. Imperial just kept their calm. They kept their nerve on the CT side. It was a T-sided map. They grinded out 6 rounds, running off 4 straight to end the half. And then we got to the T side. Once they got their economic control, Imperial won 7 straight to close out the map. Henny, Phelps leading the way with 16 frags, 14 respectively, and the door's open at this point. Faze looked vulnerable. Imperial could have closed this out, but let's see what happens when we go to Mirage. And here, we would see Rops finally wake up. He would lead the server with 18 kills and a 1.39 rating. Not the best numbers, but they were numbers that Faze desperately needed, and helped them run off a sizable T-side lead, going into the second half with an 8-4 lead. But Imperial would battle back. They would win the first 3 and bring it to 8-7. Faze would then gamely take the next 2 to take the lead again. And once Faze got in position to be able to close out the game, they pretty much never looked back. They would take 3 of the next 4 and calmly win the game 8-13. And again, these rounds were relatively close. It felt like Imperial could have easily taken some of these post-plant situations, especially on their opening CT side. Unfortunately, they're out of the major. I think they played much better than many people expected, and they easily could have won this. Faze survived. They continue to tomorrow for their last chance to qualify, but man, Faze just look vulnerable, and that's not a good look. Moving on, we have by far the best series of the day, and the one that gave me the most heart palpitations. We have Complexity taking on Vitality for a chance to qualify to top 8, and oh god, I think Complexity are going to look back at this one in retrospect and be like, man, we had this. We literally had this in the palm of our hands, and we threw it at the very end. But let's see how we got there. We start off on Inferno, and I saw Inferno get picked, and I thought Vitality were going to comfortably kick Complexity out the door and go up 1-0 easily. I did not expect for Zaiwu and Elige to both go collectively missing for most of the game, and for this to be an absolute grinder that would go to overtime. We gotta start with the obvious here. I don't think anyone expected Complexity to run out 6-0 on their CT side against Vitality. They looked absolutely flat. Vitality looked like they really couldn't get anything going. Their economy wasn't being managed very well, and the few gun rounds they did get during this stretch, they were comfortably defeated by the utility and crossfires that Complexity were using to high effectiveness. Things got more interesting once Vitality finally got some rounds on the board. They managed to claw back 5 of the next 6 and keep it trim going into the second half. But again, Complexity, and this is the story of this whole series, would win the pistol round and the conversion, which they did on the first half, and now you're up 9-5 against a Vitality that don't have Zaiwu firing on all cylinders. Again, the thing you gotta highlight though on the other side, Elige had like 4 kills at this point, and was just almost looking for ways to die. His aggression wasn't working, and it was bizarre to see someone as smart as Elige continue to make ill-advised pushes when he was struggling so bad. It felt like he was forcing it. He was trying to get kills on the board because he knew he was struggling, and he kept on taking bad peek after bad peek because of it. It's weird to see someone as present and methodical as Elige just seeming to tilt like this, but it was the story of the map. If Elige is even 10% better than he was, we're talking about a 1-0 lead for Complexity. But credit to Vitality, they locked it down on CT, they managed to push it to an overtime, and in the overtime, it was chaos. These rounds were back and forth nail-biters the whole way. Apex nearly gave me a heart attack when in a 1v3 that Complexity had to win to force another overtime or lose the map. Apex maneuvered into the graveyard on A-side Inferno, let all 3 players walk by, and nearly stumped the bomb defuse. It was a .06 defuse after they turned on him, but he got 2 kills including the bomb carrier and scared the ever-loving shit out of me. Unfortunately, it really didn't matter because Vitality would just win the next 4 and close out the 3rd overtime and push us to map 2. There's not much to be said on map 2. We go to Vertigo and Complexity comfortably beat Vitality 13-7, and I felt like they were in control the entire game. Halzerk with a masterclass 22 kills, with JT right behind him with 17. Grim and Elige bring up the flank with 13 and 15 respectively, and Elige manages to recover some of himself to stay positive and stay in the game and bring some impact. Meanwhile, Zywoo finally top frags for once, but it wasn't a loss. That's tough. Let's move on to the 3rd map. And Anubis is gonna haunt my dreams for a long time. Complexity would lead a brilliant opening half on the CT side, with Halzerk and Grim leading the charge at the front of the pack, Grim showing great lockdown defense on the B side, and Halzerk getting great op impact everywhere he could. But I don't think anyone expected what happened next. Vitality would find the spark that they needed, no pun intended, when Flames would light the server on fire, no pun intended, and lead the way to victory 13-10 off the back of a 27 kill carry job. And what is going to haunt me forever is that Complexity only got 3 rounds in the second half. Vitality were simply better in the clutch. There were some rounds in the second half that are going to haunt Complexity for a while, but there's nothing left to do. They still have one more shot to make it through to the final round. You have to have a short memory here and retool for tomorrow. Vitality advanced to the top 8, which I think everyone expected, just this was not the shaky form that we wanted to do it in. And speaking of just barely staying alive, we had G2 versus Ecstatic going on at the same time. And going into this, I think Ecstatic have shown that rock solid fundamental Danish form that I think was good enough to take G2 down. G2 left the door open, and Ecstatic simply couldn't capitalize. But they still pushed with the 3 maps. On the first map though, Inferno, G2 were in control. This was G2's map all the way, the 13-7 victory. There's not much else to be said here. This was the G2 we all expected to show up to the major. Muncie, Nico leading the way, good strats from Hooksy, and great support from Nexa and Hunter. They were just a better team on this map. But we moved to Vertigo, which is proving to be the great upset map at this major, and Ecstatic would get a 13-11 win that they pulled, frankly, out of their ass. Because G2 opened up the CT side by dominating a comfortable 8-4 lead with everything firing on all cylinders. Muncie looking amazing. Hooksy with an out-of-nowhere great fragging performance, but the thing I think that hurt them the most was Nico went missing. We swapped sides. Ecstatic get onto the CT half, and they were out for blood. Totally controlling and dominating the game. They would win 9 rounds, including 4 straight to close it out. Queenix leading the charge with 22 kills, Salazar right behind him with 15, and they push it to a 3rd map. But here on Anubis, we would see why G2 is paying Muncie as much money as they are, because he really shone as one of the brightest offers in the world. They would go down 4-0 early to Ecstatic off the back of a pistol win, but as soon as they got their economy right, G2 on the CT side would run off 8 straight dominant rounds. Muncie in full control. They would swap sides, they would win the pistol, making it a 10 straight run to open up the game. But Kragan and Queenix weren't ready to go down. They both played an incredible final map with 23 and 15 kills respectively. They get 3 back on the CT side, but at that point, you're down to such a deficit. You're down 10-7. It's just too much to overcome on such a T-sided map. G2 would win 3 of the next 4 and close it out. Again, a bad game for Nico, but Muncie leading the charge with 24 kills, Nexa with 18. Ecstatic failed to have an answer for the opping, and they go out of the tournament, losing to G2 2-1. No discredit to Ecstatic though, this team played fantastically throughout the major, and they nearly upset the world by being a young, unknown Danish core that nearly made it to the top 8. They nearly made it to the arena, and that would have been fantastic to see. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen today, but this team has a lot of upside, and I expect them to do well going forward. Moving on to our next set, we had Pain Gaming versus Heroic. Going into this, I had Heroic as the heavy favorites. They've looked like the better team throughout the tournament, and Pain Gaming, at some point, their luck had to run out. So you would think, but no one could have predicted that Heroic would fold like a goddamn t-shirt and capitulate this entire series. For one, teams need to stop picking Nuke into Pain. Pain has taken multiple amazing teams to the distance on Nuke. They are a great Nuke team. And here, they comfortably beat Heroic 13-6 off the back of Big Azera going missing. The linchpin for this team in terms of fragging was not there. He only had 9 kills. But Nissim and QZ, they pick up the slack with 21 and 17 respectively, and Heroic just couldn't produce. Just pedestrian numbers from Nikados, Kixan, and Tessas, and Nerds went missing entirely. So okay, no big deal. You lost the first map, but Heroic, you're still in it, right? You're not going to go down 12-0 on Mirage, right? Simply put, this was a CT side masterclass from Pain Gaming. They gave Heroic nothing. They let them get nothing going. And even when they got plants, they calmly and swiftly won those post-plant situations. Big Azera, Cowas, and QZ firing on all cylinders to lead the way. Meanwhile, Heroic just absolutely missing on the first half. We'll go to the second half, and you would assume, okay, down 12-0, this game is over. No. Heroic, they had some life left in them. They would run off 9 straight of their own. You think, oh no, is this going to be the epic reverse sweep 12-12? We're going to overtime? But really, Pain Gaming, they had nothing to worry about. You only need to win 1 out of the next 12. So if you're going to lose some, no big deal. Just manage your economy. Wait for your opportunity. And when they finally got it, they won, and the game is over. So even though this is a 12-9 scoreline, Heroic still got stomped out 12-0 on the opening half. They were going to lose this game statistically, no matter what. And despite Tessas and Shush having brilliant games at the end, Nikados going missing was definitely something that's going to hurt. He needs to produce for this team to be good. Heroic exit the major in dramatic fashion while Pain stay alive with one more chance to truly shock the world and make a historic top 8 for an unknown team. And for our last series, we had NAVI versus Cloud9, the battle of the former NAVI lineup against the current NAVI lineup. This match had beef written all over it, and both teams really wanted to beat each other. And opening things up on Mirage, we got the absolute scrap fest we hoped for. Both teams would battle it out, trading big streaks of rounds on their T-sides and pushing it to an overtime, where NAVI would prevail 16-14, off the back of a 33 frag performance from Wonderful, showing the power of a pure Opera against a team that doesn't have a traditional dedicated Opera in Cloud9, Bit right behind him with 22, and Emma and Jo and Alexi B kind of falling behind but keeping up the fragging when they needed it. Meanwhile, Axile led Cloud9 with 23 frags and a 1.2 rating, but the big thing here was the inability to counter Wonderful on the op, which is definitely one of the big complaints about Cloud9 as a roster. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and this is one of those maps where that opping really made the difference. However, there's still 2 more maps to play. We move on to Ancient, and Cloud9 really show the power of this lineup when it's firing on all cylinders. They would win this map comfortably 13-6, off the back of Electronic dropping 16, Boomich right behind him with 19, and Hobbit with 15 of his own. Meanwhile, on the NAVI side, Wonderful would go from being absolutely amazing to going absolutely missing on the second map at play. And once the op is out of the picture, I do believe Cloud9 have the better set of riflers compared to NAVI. And then, in the final map on Overpass, NAVI would simply disappear in a way that they really haven't done in this tournament. They would just capitulate 13-2, allowing Cloud9 to run them over and comfortably win the map. One of the highlights of NAVI for me is how good Alexi B has been as an in-game leader. His playbook is super deep, and his calling has been really efficient to start the major. But here, there was just nothing. They couldn't get anything going on the T side, and by the time they got to CT, it was simply too late. It also doesn't help that him and Emma combined for 6 total frags. Bit and Wonderful also couldn't put up any amazing numbers either, because you're just losing too many rounds. There's no economy. Meanwhile, Perfecto, Hobbit, Axile firmly in control on the Cloud9 side, so that if Electronic went missing, it didn't really matter because they were already winning the game. Alright, we are here. Tomorrow is the final day of the elimination stage, and then we go on break for 4 days before the major concludes next week. So let's talk about the schedule for tomorrow, because things are about to get real interesting. In our final set of best of threes, we have Complexity taking on Faze Clan, Virtus Pro versus G2, and NAVI versus Pain Gaming bringing up the rear. Firstly, Complexity versus Faze Clan, winner goes on, loser goes home. What's going to happen here? I honestly have no idea, because we don't know what Faze or what Complexity are going to show up to this series. Both teams have been inconsistent as hell. If we get the Complexity we saw on day 1 of the elimination stage, where they were just unstoppable with Elige leading the way, then I don't think Faze can answer that. Because right now we haven't seen godlike form from Rops, Rain has been totally missing, and Brokey and Frozen are game to game. I don't think this team on Faze is good enough to beat Complexity when they are playing at their best level. And for the sake of my pick'ems, I need Complexity to win. No bias, I swear. But speaking of bias, it may shock you to hear, but I'm taking G2 to beat Virtus Pro, just because I want to see Virtus Pro lose. That's it. That's all I got. And finally, I'm assuming the luck for Pain Gaming has to finally run out against a top 5 team in the world in NAVI. If NAVI can't beat Pain Gaming in a best of 3, then I don't know. We've entered the simulation. It's all falling apart. Anders was right. We're in the Matrix. If Pain Gaming make the top 8, it will be off the backs of one of the biggest upsets in major history. Whew. Alright, that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitch. Shout out to my channel members, Furley, Justin, Jesse, for always being awesome. You guys are great. Alright, it's time for me to get some sleep. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.